What's up, YouTube? This is Black Chaos of D&D Gaming, and what I'm going to bring you today is I'm going to actually bring you a Madden gameplay. You can just watch that in the background, but I'm going to actually bring you what we at D&D Gaming has created. We decided to do a personal development series, so we decided to not only just bring gameplay to our subscribers, but also to bring some type of positive development tools that individuals can use to not only improve their life, but just basically make their life better overall. And so the first personal development series we're going to bring today is basically how to get a job, basically how to interview, how to properly interview when you're actually having a job interview. And it's a little technique that I've used personally in my life to land four engineering jobs at 4 major corporations. Those corporations are Honda Industries, Alcoa Corporation, Kraft Foods, and the John Deere Company. These are techniques that I've used throughout my career after college to basically land jobs. And it's a pretty simple method. The method is, I'm not going to say this method is guaranteed to, if you do this method, you will get the job, but if this method is done correctly, it will greatly increase your percentage of actually landing the job. So let's get right into it. The method is an acronym that I've used. It's called S.C.A.R.S. It's spelled N-O-S-C-A-R-S. And the first part, I broke the acronym down to 2 parts. No, and then SCARS is the second part. So the first part, which is no, stands for no stress. So just generally overall, you don't want to have any stress when you're doing an interview. And there's 3 little tools or things that I do to actually help myself relieve stress and to make myself a little calmer during interviews. Number 1 is I prepare for the interview. And when I say prepare for an interview, it's 3 things that I do as far as with the company that I'm about to interview for that will actually help me prepare for the interview. Number 1, I make sure I know the financials of the company. I make sure I know what the company has made last year. I know if the company has had any financial losses, what the budget, if you can get information on that, or what the goal is for the upcoming year, if they missed their goals, just general information about the financials of the company. The second thing I look at in the prepare phase is actually any big announcements that the company has had. I've done interviews with companies where the company was adding a $5 million expansion to create a new product, or the company was actually doing a big event in the community to eliminate waste in water. So you want to know about that information and have that information with you when you actually go to that interview. It helps to display that you actually have a passion about the company and not just the job, but you actually are doing your research for the company. The last thing, which is kind of common knowledge, is so number 1, know what the company makes. I've been interviewed with the 4 companies that I listed earlier, and they do various products within a company. So if you could pick like at least 3 or 4 different products that the company makes and just do a little research on when the product actually started, what the product is actually selling, what the product is actually being used for, it helps you out in that interview. Because I've been in situations where the first thing I did when I sat down with the person doing the interview, the first question I actually received was, do you know about our company? And and that, as far as starting off an interview, if you're given that question and you really don't know, it pretty much sets the tone for your interview. So those are 3 things I use to actually prepare. The second part of the no stress method is know who you're interviewing with. Majority of the time when you get an interview list through an email or through a contact, you have set times that you're going to talk to people. Majority of interviews I've done, they usually are at minimum about 3 to 4 hours. So I'm talking to the plant manager, I'm talking to the engineering manager, I'm talking to the shift supervisor. So it's a list of individuals that I actually get prior to my interview that I actually can look at their names and I know who I'm going to talk to. And a really cool thing that I've started to do with throughout my career is when I receive that list, I actually look them up on LinkedIn. Majority of people are starting to use LinkedIn. It's kind of like the business side of Facebook. And so I look those people up on LinkedIn and I actually look for similarities or just general things that I can find out about their background. What college did they attend? What type of certifications do they have, what type of knowledge do they have. And that helps out as far as in my general conversations with the people I'm interviewing with. I may have went to the same college as the plant manager, and I can relate and say, hey, we both went to the same college, and we can talk about certain things like that. It helps to, again, these are techniques that I use to actually relieve the stress. So that's a good technique, just to know about the people you're interviewing with and just know a little bit about their background. The third thing is I use in the no stress method, the first part of the no SCAR technique is to arrive early. And when I say early, I say a minimum of 25 minutes prior to your interview. And it's two reasons why I say you should arrive early. The first reason is, number one, it helps you to relax. If you're rushing, if you're getting there just on time, your blood is going to be pumping because you're trying to make that time to get your interview in on time, and it adds more to the stress that you're going to have, and it pretty much sets the tone for your interview. So if you arrive early, you get the opportunity to kind of relax, chill, and just collect yourself, and maybe look over your resume and do things like that. It helps you to relax. The second thing I like to arrive early for is it gives me the opportunity to, this is my first time usually being inside the company, and usually companies have waiting rooms where they actually like to brag about themselves. They have a lot of awards hanging, awards that they receive, or safety achievements, or any type of awards they receive. They like to display that in their waiting area. It's kind of like the company's opportunity to brag about themselves. That's an opportunity that you can take. You have about 25 minutes to actually look and read about some of the awards they've won. Usually companies have a display of the products that they make, or any type of news. Companies usually have newsletters where they describe, weekly newsletters that go out, and that's usually information they keep in these waiting areas that you're going to be waiting in. And so I like to take advantage of that and actually read about the company, and to gain a little more knowledge about the company now that I'm actually inside the doors of the company, so to say. And so those are two things I like to do to basically, and that's the reason I say you should arrive early. And again, a minimum of 25 minutes gives you a good opportunity to relax and also to gather some more information about the company. And so that's the first part of the no SCAR method, and that's the no. It stands for no stress. Second part of the no SCAR method I like to use is the acronym S.C.A.R.S. And this is basically a technique I use to answer questions. Majority of the interview questions you get during interviews are going to be situational questions. Tell me how you dealt with this situation, or tell me how you applied a certain improvement to a process, or give me an example where you had to deal with a very difficult individual while completing the project. Those are all situational questions, and it's usually a method that interviewers or companies use where they actually, it's a point system where if you answer these questions situationally and in this order, you will always score high. And so and that acronym that I created is S.C.A.R.S. This is basically, and I'll walk you through it, but this is basically how you want to answer all your questions. You want to answer your questions in this situational method where you always achieve a high scoring on the situational questions that you actually receive. So the first part of that method is the S, and that stands for situation. And when I say situation, I'm talking about problem. And so usually if you're given a question, you want to state what the situation is, what the problem was. And within stating that, you want to also state what the actual impact was. And when I say impact, I'm talking about the pain. So if you had a difficult person, they give you a question where you say, give us an example of where you had to deal with a difficult person while you were trying to complete a project. You want to actually state in that situation or in that problem what the pain was, whether it was this person was really impacting the overall opinion of the group negatively, or this problem was causing a lot of downtime on this certain production center, or it was costing the company $30,000 per quarter. So you always want to state what that impact is. The one reason I say you want to do that is, number one, it gets the attention of the person you're talking to. They have something to associate with what the situation was, rather than saying I had to deal with a person who was negative. I'm dealing with a person that was actually negatively impacting the opinion of the whole group, or I'm dealing with a situation that was actually costing the company $30,000 per quarter. And so you want to state that situation, and it's basically a couple things you can think about that. Usually you always have a situation. If it's a safety issue, you can use that. If it's a financial issue, it's always good to use that as far as your pain. And if it's a communication issue, those are three things I like to have examples of when I actually go to these interviews. The second part is the C, and that stands for contact. And this is pretty much common knowledge. Keep eye contact with the individual you're talking to. I've been in interviews where I had to interview with a panel of individuals where I was sitting across the table and 4 people were sitting across from me. And I was receiving these situational questions from every other individual. And it was kind of difficult, but I tried my best to basically keep contact with every single individual. No matter who gave me the question, it was a good practice just to pan the room and make sure you're keeping contact with the people interviewing you. Very important. It actually helps to show that you're confident in what you're saying. Just imagine if you were given a question. Give us an example how you saved the company a large amount of money, and you answer the question and you're looking down at your sheet of paper, or you're looking down at the table answering the question. That doesn't show any confidence. You want to be confident, and one technique that I use is to keep eye contact. And you don't have to keep an uncomfortable, long staring eye contact, but just a general contact. When you're talking to an individual, you want to look at that person in his eyes or in her eyes, and actually just, you can pan the room a little bit, but as you're talking to that person, keep your eye contact. The third method, or third part of the S.C.A.R.S method, is actions. You want to state what actions you took individually with your situation. So again, I was talking about the example of dealing with a difficult person when trying to complete a project. And so the actions that you may take is, you could say, I actually pulled the individual. I had a couple of individual personal meetings with the individual and got their feedback on what they didn't like about the process that I was trying to improve, or did they have any ideas on how to improve it, or what was their overall opinion of the improvement that I was trying to put in. You want to state what you actually did personally to deviate or to counteract what your pain was stated in your situation. And you want to be descriptive as possible in this situation, because this is actually basically where the company or the person interviewing you is going to see how you actually solve problems. And so you want to be as descriptive as you can when you're describing this. You want to state what you did, any issues that you had when you did this, and basically just walk them through the actions that you took. The fourth part is the results. Again, so you state your situation, you state the situation with what the pain was in your situation, you keep in contact, eye contact when you're talking to the person doing the interview or interviewing you. You stated your actions, now you're going to state what your results were. And in this part, you want to actually state your results as far as what you actually achieved by the actions you put in place. And so if it was, we end up saving $30,000, we end up decreasing the amount of cost that we were incurring by 25%. You want to just basically state the results. And the last part of this method, which is the S, is a part that I've added to basically get that okay from the interviewer. It's basically a way to show that I've actually completed the project, and it's a good follow-up, and the project is actually sticking. And I call that sustainability. And so you look at that and you say, okay, I've put this project in place. I mean, I've did these things, so basically these action items to this situation that I had, and I've applied them. These are the results. And down the road, it's been 2 or 3 months, and we're still getting the savings, or we're still decreasing the amount of downtime we're getting on the production center, or we still have not incurred a negative impact of $30,000 per quarter. We're still at the $20,000 or $10,000 cost. So the action items that I put in place are still being, it gave me a result, and the result is still being sustained over time. And so again, this is a method that I use. It's pretty simple. It's a acronym that I created over the time that I've been interviewing with companies, And if you use this can help you out as far as with any situational questions you actually can receive. And I've actually been on an interview panel interviewing for engineers going into a certain department, where I had an individual come in and actually it was a female, and she actually answered all these questions talking about things that she did in the community. Now this is for an engineering position. She actually was given the job. She was actually given the offer based off the way she answered the question. So this is a method that can be used. It really doesn't matter what you talk about as far as that, but if you answer these questions in this method and you lay it out in this format, you're always going to get a good score, and it's going to show that you can pretty much walk through the process. Another little tip that I like to do is companies usually give you situational questions, so you can think about certain things that you've done in your career or experiences that you had, and you can write these down. You write these out in this format. Write what the situation was, what the pain was that you had with that situation, what action items you took. You can write that down, and then what the result was, and then how is it being sustained, or how long has it been since the problem hasn't occurred again. And you can have that with you when you actually do your interview. I actually have a booklet that I take with different situational questions, situations under how I improve efficiency with a company, how I decreased the amount of downtime, how I deal with difficult individuals in the workplace. I have that with me when I actually do the interview, and I actually just look at that and I answer that question based off the situation that they want to hear, whether it's efficiency, whether it's downtime, whether it's a major project that I worked on dealing with difficult individuals, different opinions. I have that with me when I actually do the interview, and it helps out a whole lot. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys with this, but this is a method that I think is pretty important with life. Life involves you. Unless you're a millionaire and you're given a lot of money, you have to work for a living. So this is a way that I've used to, number one, just personally develop myself throughout my career and get better jobs and basically just land the job. And so again, this is part 1 of the D&D personal development series. We're going to be bringing you guys some more development tools, or what you want to call techniques. And until then, I'll see you next time. Please rate, comment, like, and subscribe. Enjoy.